1943, the Allied situation on land, sea, and in the air is precarious. On land, the Allies are deadlocked at Cassino. On the sea,
the U-boats ravaged American waters almost uncontrolled, and in fact, almost brought us to the disaster of an indefinite prolongation of the war. The Battle of the Atlantic was the dominating factor all through the war. Never for one moment could we forget that everything happening on land, at sea, or in the air depended ultimately on its outcome.
In the air, the British Bomber Command carries the fight to the enemy in night strikes against the Ruhr and the heart of Germany. Commanding the British bomber forces was Sir Arthur Harris.
Press home your attack. If you individually succeed, you will have delivered the most devastating blow against the very vitals of the enemy. Let him have it right on the chin.
If tonight the people of London were asked to stop the bombing of all cities, the overwhelming majority would cry, "No, we will mete out to the Germans the measure and more than the measure that they have meted out to us."
January 1943, a new year holding its hidden promise of a turn in the tide. The Allied leaders agree upon a master plan to consummate the downfall of Hitler's Reich.
The Casablanca Conference proclaimed the defeat of the U-boats as our first objective.
At sea, radar. Scientific ingenuity makes possible a breakthrough in submarine detection involving a new shortwave method.
It was many months before they discovered how to detect the very short wave used in our new method.
Much will depend upon air supremacy hand in hand with newly developed techniques.
The very long-range Liberator squadrons based in Newfoundland and Iceland provided daylight air cover along the whole convoy route.
New techniques, DEs, speedy destroyer escorts. New techniques, convoy escorts and aircraft carriers.
anti-U-boat warfare, the air weapon was now an equal partner with the surface ship, giving close and advanced air protection.
Hitler dismisses Admiral Raeder and promotes Admiral Dönitz to Commander-in-Chief of the German Navy. Albert Speer is placed in charge of Nazi war industry with frantic orders to step up submarine production.
In April 1943, we could see the balance turn. The German Admiralty watched their charts with strained attention, and at the end of the month, Admiral Dönitz recalled the remnants of his fleet from the North Atlantic to rest or to fight in less hazardous waters. The U-boats, at their fullest strength, were effectively challenged and mastered. For the 4 months which ended on September the 18th, no merchant vessel was sunk by enemy action in the North Atlantic. During the fortnight in this September, no Allied ships were sunk by U-boat action in any part of the world. It was not until 1943 that we possessed sufficient and suitable aircraft for striking heavy and continuous blows. And in the same year, the bombers of the American 8th Air Force joined in one strategic air offensive.
In this hurriedly evacuated girls' school, Wickham Abbey, the headquarters of 8th Bomber Command is established. The new tenants waste little time in complying with these instructions. Results? Negative.
The Americans were convinced that their heavily armed fortress bombers in close formation could penetrate deeply into Germany by daylight without fighter escort. I was doubtful whether this was a practicable system.
August 17th, 1943. An historic day. General Toohey Spots and his staff watch a pitifully small force of 12 fortresses take off on its first strike against Hitler's Europe in World War II. The Fuhrer is alarmed by the growing menace of the Anglo-American combined bomber offensive. He orders Goering to begin redeploying much of the Luftwaffe's fighter strength from the Russian front to meet the aerial challenge from the west. B-17s appear over Germany. Strike fighter escort, the bombers bear the full brunt of Gering's Luftwaffe, whose pilots go all out.
There's 4 of them, 1 o'clock high.
They're coming around.
Watch. Two fighters, 6 o'clock up, coming in. Diver now, Chief.
He said be in trouble around 2 o'clock. Watch.
Got an engine on fire.
There's 2 more diving through the 94th.
3 planes, 9 o'clock, coming around. Keep your armor, boys. Around the 10.
Watch it, Chuck. Keep your eyes open.
They're breaking at 11, breaking at 11. I got them. Coming around 10 o'clock. I don't know, 2 o'clock. Watch them, Scotty. I got my sights on them. Check that B-17, Chuck. 3 o'clock. Motor's broken. Fighter at 10:30, coming around. Those 10:30 upper or lower? B-17 out of control at 3 o'clock.
Come on, you guys, get out of that plane. Bail out. There's one. He come out of the bomb bay.
Yeah, I see him.
There's a tail gunner coming out.
Watch out for fighters. Keep your eye on them, Bill.
See any parachutes, Quinlan?
Parachutes. So black at 9 o'clock.
8 men still in that B-17. Come on, the rest of you guys. Get out of there.
Come on, Bill.
So far, 3 more shoots.
Flight, 11 o'clock. Fighters, 6 o'clock.
ME-109 at 3 o'clock. Keep after him, would you?
I see him. I'm on him. Come on, you son of a...
The bombers pay a frightful price, losing the cream of their most experienced crews.
Accepted that unescorted daylight bombers could not gain air superiority over Germany, and their offensive was suspended until long-range fighters could be produced to cover them in sufficient strength. American long-range fighters at last mastered the enemies, and the day bombers delivered precision attacks without undue interference or loss. The bitterness of the struggle had thrown a greater strain on the Luftwaffe than it was able to bear. This was a turning point in the air war against Germany. Now we were masters of the air.
An American bomber stream of 1,000 planes becomes commonplace. The first 1,000-bomber raid was mounted by Sir Robert Sonby.
The American Air Force went out by day, and Bomber Command went out by night. An excellent plan because it meant that the German defenses were fully stretched both by day and by night. The great Allied air offensive went on really only for 1 year, from March 1943 to March 1944. And in that year, tremendous destruction was done. And when the spring of 1944 arrived, attrition on the Eastern Front, the fact that the American Air Force had beaten the German fighter force, and the damage done to the German war industries had created the conditions needed for the invasion of Europe in the summer of that year.
The great struggle at Cassino grows more desperate.
In Italy, the enemy held firm. Winter weather brought active operations to a close.
Bitter months later, Cassino, May 1944. Now the tide, which has already turned on the sea and in the air, finally turns on land. German resistance broke. The 6th United States Corps, with the British 1st and 5th Divisions on its left, pressed on towards Rome. At 1:15 p.m. on June 4, the head of the American 88th Division entered the Piazza Venezia in the heart of the capital.